Welcome to Living the Green, where cannabis science meets real talk, real stories, and let's be honest, some pretty high vibes. Meet your hosts, Abir, a nurse practitioner and cannabis expert blending science with soul, and Michal, a psychotherapist, truth teller, and mental health maverick. Together, they break it down, challenge what you think you know while keeping it real. So grab your joint, your curiosity, or just an open mind, and let's get elevated. Welcome to Living the Green. Today's episode is about sleep, and I'll let Michal take it.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. So I'm just going to say a few words about sleep before we get started. And as a psychotherapist, we're always talking about sleep. Mm-hmm. I like to view sleep as the foundation of health. And oftentimes, if a person's feeling irritable, right, the first thing I might ask them is, how's your sleep been? And there's just, certain ways that a person might start to show up that might be affected by getting lack of sleep.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, sleep is one of the pillars, yes.
So excited to get to ask you some questions about the science of sleep because it doesn't come easy for everyone.
Yep, I love it, and I love sleep. It is one of the pillars of health, and same like you, when I ask my patients actually about when I'm managing someone's health and I ask about their sleep, sometimes they're just taken back. They're like, why are you asking me about sleep? And I'm like, because it's part of your health, right? It's, it's just people don't think of it. It's like mental health. It's like, and people take sleep as part of it's something that I have to rest. But literally, if you don't sleep, you could die. It's sleep deprivation.
Tell us more, Abby.
Sleep deprivation is actually, it's one of the torture methods. But anyways, your body needs sleep because when you sleep, we always think of it as I'm just going to rest, sleep. But literally when you're sleeping, your body is doing all of its regenerative processes that just help you be able to function every day. And like you said, when you have, if you have one night of, rest sleep, that's okay. Your body sometimes, you can take a day or so. But if it's a persistent, insult all the time, it's like, your mood gets affected, your, physical health gets affected. It presents in a lot of different ways. And it's like people don't think of it. They always think, I don't know why I'm anxious, or, I don't know why I'm on edge, or I'm like, did you sleep last night? I mean, the term, ooh, somebody woke up on the wrong side of the bed is true for a reason, right?
Exactly.
But it's sleep medicine has honestly, so just speaking of sleep, when we sleep, your body goes into, when we sleep, it's actually different cycles, and your body does different things on how we sleep. So to break it down, there's 4 different cycles of sleep. And the first cycle is when you are first slipping into sleep. That's when you're just kind of still able to hear, a little, when you're kind of dreaming, but still you're floating, right?
Yeah.
You're floating. That's the first cycle. And that's when you're play some break dance or jerk, or, when you're that's the first stop. But then you go into the second phase of sleep. And usually it's a short-lived, first few minutes or so, and then you slip into the second phase of sleep, and this is where you kind of try to help reconsolidate a little bit of memories, and that's where your brain starts shutting down certain areas. Your frontal lobe starts being like, all right, I'm just gonna go to sleep. Certain parts, part of the reason why we still dream is actually your occipital lobe, which is your eyes, your center, is still there, right? Because you're seeing, right? Your dreams, right? How are you seeing your dreams,
yeah.
right? So your occipital lobe is still operational. But anyways, nerding it
I
more
know.
out.
I love this. This is so fascinating.
But certain areas start shutting down, and that's the second phase. And then comes your deep sleep, which is the third phase, and that's where I love it. And also, that's where your regenerative processes start in your body. And it's not just resting just for your brain. It's actually all of your body, your immune system, your your immune system, your nervous system, your sleep helps
organs.
clear, inflammation from the body, all that. So it activates something we call the glymphatic system. Think of it as your, maintenance crew, right? For if you lived in a big city or something, you see all the crews like that come out at 3 a.m. cleaning the streets, 4 a.m, right? They're doing it. There's no traffic. There's no, so it's easier. So the same thing happens is when you sleep, it's just, you get into that phase that you activate that glymphatic system. They're the maintenance crew of your body. They just go start, cleaning up, like all waste products, removing like harmful proteins. That's why actually
It's just so amazing, Abby.
it is. That's why now Alzheimer's actually, you have, I believe they just did it a 30-fold increase of Alzheimer's if you have a sleep disorder. So sleep is very important actually. But it also that time also is where your frontal lobe shuts down. That's your command center. If you remember, we talked about with ADHD. And then it also, your amygdala, which is your processes, your emotions, actually gets active. And it's also our fight or flight. That's where our imagination takes, So 2 parts. It's your amygdala and your hippocampus get active, and both of them are responsible for processing emotions and solidifying memories. So let's say you had a hard day at work or whatever, it could just manifest in a different dream for you in a simple way, but that's also your brain is just kind of processing it and just putting it away, or something like that. And then the last phase, which is important, is your REM sleep. And that's the last phase of sleep. So it's the last cycle. And that's where we start dreaming the most. But it's also one of the most important parts for creativity. And that's where we have our eureka moments when we wake up and you're like, whoa, I had the wildest dream. And now I have this wildest idea or whatever. So sleep is really it's so fascinating. We still don't understand, the whole science of it, and all that, but we know all about those cycles. And by the way, those cycles go in 90-minute cycles. It's still, the science still tells us about sleep that you need between 6 to 8 hours of sleep in order for your body to do all these processes. But there's some outliers. There are outliers out there that sleep for 4 hours and can get, there are people that need more than 9 hours. So but ideally it's 7 to 8 hours. And you can't make up for sleep. So when people say, oh, I'm just going to sleep over the weekend or whatever, you can't make up for lost sleep. So it's important too. So even in sleep, you gotta be living in the moment. But I could, talk about sleep. But cannabis, when you bring, cannabis into the part, well, there's ways, to help with sleep. People who have sleep disorders have difficulties and stuff.
I was just gonna ask you, because it's so many people struggle with sleep.
May I ask, do you have a problem with sleep, or do you struggle with sleep?
Yes.
Oh, and what do you usually do for sleep, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, of course.
Sharing is caring.
I'm okay to share. So yes, I now use cannabis for sleep, and it's a lifesaver for me.
Nice.
I can consistently fall asleep with cannabis.
Do you use it as the sole method to help you sleep?
Yes.
Nice.
Prior to that, I was using something like Ativan for maybe a year, right? And to be able to transition away from that to cannabis.
That's wonderful. You know, like Ativan and Xanax are good short-term medicines. They're meant to be short-term, but unfortunately, prescribers put people on them and they just forget about it. You know, but
yeah, that's going to be, we'll do another episode about that. But so cannabis for me has been a lifesaver with sleep.
Awesome.
I just...
And do you mind, if you don't mind me asking, what method, you know, like, do you find works best for you?
Edibles.
That's my girl. Well-educated patient. That's awesome. Well, cannabis actually will help you. So for people who are experienced with using cannabis, you know, as you know, there are certain strains that can be more sedating, certain strains that can be more uplifting, and it all depends on the, you know, cannabinoids and the terpene profile of all of that that's being expressed in the plant. So if you are utilizing something that is for sleep, you want to, with cannabis, you want to look for another cannabinoids that's usually abundant alongside THC, and that's CBN. It actually helps you. So anything THC and CBN, think of CBN and as in nighttime. And it just helps you sleep. So the combination of those, and it also helps with pain. But cannabis helps induce sleep because those cycles that I was talking about, it actually helps induce, it shortens the first couple of cycles and it helps puts you into deep sleep. So it helps you with your regenerative processes of your body and all that. And that's why when people take an edible and they say they wake up the next day and they're like, holy shit, I'll hear it a lot from my patients. They're like, yeah, I just, you know, took an edible and I felt amazing the next day. So I'm like, I need to get this in my life to take it. And I, you know, or, you know, and I also like, especially, I find it very helpful in patients like Kapuna, like elderly, because, you know, like the medicines like the Ativan, the Xanax and the likes, you're really limited. You cannot prescribe those medicines for those kind of people. And some people have been taking them from since they were, let's say, in their 50s, and they're like now 80s and they're still taking them. And you're like, you know, I've inherited some of these people and I'm like, holy shit, this person's been on this for like 30 years. So how do you wean them off? You know, like, it's just, you can't, you know, like cut someone off. But cannabis is, if you are to use it, you know, like some people don't need to depend on it and take it nightly. Some people might require to take it nightly. Everyone is different. That's the beauty of cannabis and the beauty of your body. Everyone is different, and your endocannabinoid system. But it's...
Abby, wait. Would you like to share just a little bit about the endocannabinoid system?
What about it? Like, what do you want to know? Like, how does it, you know... we're going to talk about it in a different one, but the endocannabinoid system is basically found in almost every mammal that we know. And it is a group of receptors. It's a group of enzymes, receptors, and basically this just works on multiple areas of your life, multiple areas in your body. It's not like one organ or anything like that. It's actually can be, the receptors can be present and go away depending on when they're needed in your body. But they usually are in your nervous system or your immune system. But using cannabinoids and certain cannabinoids alongside certain terpenes, like for instance, strains high in myrcene. Myrcene is a terpene that helps with pain, but also high levels of myrcene will make you sleepy. And usually high levels of myrcene are found in indica plants, but not all indica plants will make you sleepy. I can use Gorilla Glue and clean my house. But anyways, but that's how the endocannabinoid system interacts with your system. So whenever you consume cannabinoids from outside, like in cannabis, it interacts with that and provides all those benefits for you. But I do,
It's just so fascinating.
I like cannabis because it's so like, it's customizable to you, right? It's not like, oh, you got to take it this much or whatever in this. It's just everyone is different. Some people use it every now and then. Some people you need it nightly, but it's safer than a lot of alternatives out there. But alongside, I'm not saying using cannabis. There are a lot of things you could do for cannabis besides cannabis. And it's, cannabis is, again, one of the tools. So it's, having good sleep hygiene, is we say we practice, like physical health and all that. Sleep hygiene is one of those things. And when I talk about sleep hygiene, it encompasses a lot of different things. One of them is consistency. Consistency is key. I'm guilty of not having right now I don't have a consistent sleep schedule, but before, when I had a consistent sleep schedule, no matter what day of the week, I always woke up at like 6:30 in the morning, I'm grateful that I don't have to set an alarm because I work for myself and I don't start till 10 a.m. And, but, like, it's like I used to wake up at 6:30, like every day. And like by like 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, it's just I'm winding down, like, so it's, your body also has its own clock, right? It's called your circadian rhythm, your internal clock. All mammals, we follow the light cycle. We all follow the light. That's something. Anyways, we'll talk about our episode with spirituality with that. But we follow light cycle, right? Even people who are night owls or whatever, you still have your own rhythm, circadian rhythm. But everyone needs to sleep. So ideally, whenever your body's winding down and all that, if you ignore it, and that's when you get your second wind, it's actually your brain. We're going to nerd out some more. Your brain releases a couple of hormones, sleep hormones, that help induce those sleep. And one of them is melatonin. But it's your body starts to release those hormones to kind of indicate to your body like, yo, it's time to shut down, But what can disrupt that? Light, TV, computer, any of our new devices, unfortunately, can disrupt, because they will give, or even just bright lights in your house. If you don't dim the lights before you go to sleep, you don't do that 2 hours before to go to sleep, you're not giving your body signals like, hey, it's time to shut down. So if you go from bright lights and you go try to sleep, it might be a little bit difficult. Another thing, like some people do is alcohol disrupts alcohol, like people who say, I'm just gonna drink a glass of wine before bed. A glass of wine might help you sleep, but it really disrupts that sleep cycle a lot, and it causes disruption in your body. It actually wakes up your body and all that. So alcohol disrupts it. Caffeine intake, we were just talking with Eric. So caffeine, even though caffeine can last in your body up to 10 to 12 hours.
I did not know that.
Yes. So when people say like, oh, I can drink a cup of coffee at 5 o'clock and still go to sleep, you might still be able to go to sleep. But remember that sleep cycle we talked about? It will cause disruption into one of those, cycles. And so it's not going to allow your body to fully rest. So you could have slept 8 hours, but you're going to wake up not feeling well rested or something like that. That's because something caused a disruption there with that. Besides also like going to bed at a certain time and waking up at a certain time, regardless, make it a habit. That's, and listening to your body when you want to go to sleep, just don't go for that second wind, because that second wind might just last you you just basically force your hormones to just release more, like, hey, wake up, all that. What else besides? Another thing is fixing your relationship with your bedroom, with sleep. You know, a lot of people are guilty of falling asleep to the TV or making it a habit and all that. And you don't sleep well rested because, number one, you're activating your brain, right? With information, your brain craves information. You're activating that brain, not just the light cycle. I'm just talking about your attention. You're activating it with all that. So when you try to go to sleep, you're almost your brain is not winding down and all that. And that's when people start relying on just using cannabis. So it's not just good to just use cannabis and ignore all those other things, right?
Yeah.
You know, if you struggle, you got to make your bedroom a place for sleep. So all the things that disrupt your sleep, none of the, don't look at your phone in your bed. If you want to read from like a screen with low dim light, or use what do they call them? The blue light blocking glasses and stuff like that, because it sends less stimulating light to your brain to wake it up. Or if you are someone who, let's say you go to bed, you also have to develop a good sleep relationship with your bed. You want to view your bed. You want to go to your bed when you're sleepy, right? Not just go to bed. And if you are to go to bed and you're laying in bed and you start getting anxious about, and you start looking, first of all, don't have a clock to look at. Number one. I think psychiatrists tell you don't look at the clock. And if you're building that anxiety, then get up and do something that's a light activity. Like you can just read in your bed, like read a book or something like that. It's not as stimulating, and keep the light low because it's just helps your body just kind of wind down. There's also breathing exercises that you could do. One of the methods is the 4-7-8 methods. And a lot of those, or just doing a guided meditation, or like something where you could just do progressive muscle relaxation. Find whatever routine, but make a routine and to do it, because all those breathing exercises, what they're doing is activating your parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and digest, and you're like, and that's what you're putting your body into it.
Yes. So. I mean, because it's amazing how that shift in the nervous system is what determines whether you're going to be able to get to sleep or not. Yeah. And just to echo what Abby's saying, there are so many great practices to help with sleep, and all the, it's, sometimes I like to think of it, it's like being little kids again when you had to have a bedtime. And you had you had a routine to get you, the brushing the teeth, right, washing all, and so I think we lose that when we're teenagers and in our 20s, and then we have to start maybe start bringing back the bedtime.
I think because we look at it as a perspective is of, like me personally, for instance, I'm having to change my relationship with sleep, because when I look at it, I'll be like, oh, I leave sleep to the last thing after everything else is done. I'm done, everything else, or let me just binge and watch one more episode of something, or, and I'm not prioritizing my sleep. And so I'm guilty of all of that, too. So but I'll give you an example of, for instance, how it will manifest in a day that I slept well versus a day I didn't sleep well. And I'll have more patience when I'm out on the road driving, for instance, I'll be like more mindful of the moment, more be like, you cut me off, all right, cool, whatever,
that's mental health right there,
right? I just
like
have and actually, speaking of that, because sleep is important for emotional regulation, right? That's part of emotional regulation, versus if I woke up one of the days that I would wake up, I didn't sleep well. Number one, I would wake up nauseated and with a stomach upset, because my body didn't get, I noticed like my kryptonite is my stomach, but it's, it affects me physically. And then I also, my mood, I'm anxious. I'm not, I don't have the patience. Every little thing, annoys me. I'm just kind of like, that's how I used to, like now I'm more mindful of things, and I'm like, of my temper. But it's just, that's how it would manifest for someone. Pay attention to how your sleep, and how when you're using cannabis and all that. And the other aspect of it is sometimes when people take too much cannabis, right? And it's just over sedation and you can't wake up. So that's another thing. Don't just rely on what, like someone is, like non-medical person. Rely on the I would take someone's advice who not experienced it before, not by experience, but listen to your own body and listen to someone's medical advice, because everyone is different. And when in doubt, always start slow and low. That's my thing with cannabis, because it can put you in the hospital, or you can
cause
sleep,
anxiety, if it's too much.
Yeah.
So yeah, I totally agree. Go low and go slow, and just get a feel for how it feels.
Yeah. I remember I shared like the cookie I ate one time at the Cannabis Expo from Pakaloha seed. I slept for 18 hours. Out. Don't do that, kids. But so it's it could also be the other way. So it's but cannabis, it's really, really good, and I love just the more, like with sleep, I like it. Another thing with sleep and cannabis is for people who have PTSD, it helps with suppressing that dream part and all that. So it's helpful for people to use edibles, not inhaled methods, because it has a prolonged effect. But I actually wanted to ask Eric, he was talking about... sorry.
No, I wanted to just hear a little bit more about the edibles having a prolonged effect, and just...
So with edibles, you've experienced with edibles, right? Like inhaled methods, smoking works fast, but it's short-lived. For some people it's an hour, some people a couple hours. But with edibles, it has a slower onset, because it has to, get digested, and then, it goes to your liver. But there's two things that happen when you smoke versus you do edibles. The type of the THC that's available for your body is different. When you smoke weed, it's your body converts it, your lung converts it to, like the Delta 9 or whatever, like I think. Versus when you take an edible, it goes into your, like your gut, your small intestine hits your liver. That's when the liver takes it, and just chemist in there just, does a little bit of poof, poof, poof magic. No, I'm joking. Your liver is a wonderful organ, but it converts it into Delta 10 actually, and it's a little bit stronger, and that's why the edibles, sometimes when people say, "Oh, it hit me,"
I never knew that. This is fast,
and that's why it takes longer to work. It takes 2 hours. So the golden rule with edibles is start slow and low, and don't, and also to make better, like you absorb more if you take it with with food, especially like a good healthy fat, like an avocado snack, or some nuts, seeds, anything like that. It just helps absorb it more, and you get the omega-3s. Or if you take it on an empty stomach, it would work faster, but you don't absorb as much. So everyone is different. It also depends on how your gut health is, when it comes to edibles. People who've had, surgeries on their, or people who also have other, everyone's gut health is different, right? So it's important. But edibles, I like edibles because they do have the prolonged, when they work, they last, 8 hours, 6 hours, or sometimes if you take more, They can last longer. So, but they have a prolonged effect that they help you sleep and carry you throughout the night. So that's why I'm like, if you struggle with sleep, do an edible. But if you're new, don't go with 10 milligrams. You're not going to have a good time. But
I agree.
Anyways, but it's just, it's really, I love, but I wanted to ask Eric, we were talking about earlier, he was talking about, he said, can you repeat what you told me, Eric, about when we were talking about caffeine and sleep?
I was saying that I have a new relationship with caffeine lately.
Uh-huh.
And what did I say? I forget what I said exactly about
You said
sleep.
the older you were getting, you were using energy drinks, but now
Less.
you use them.
Yeah. But I corrected that statement. I said as I get older, but that really has only been in the last year.
Well, still.
But yeah, I used to drink like 3 energy drinks a day of the Monsters and the Rain, like the 300 milligram per can ones.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And did you used to drink it just to wake you up?
Honestly, sometimes it felt like I was just drinking it so I didn't feel tired. Like it didn't give me energy.
Mm-hmm.
It just kept me like normal.
God.
But if you ask the people that interact with me, they probably would say different.
What about
like Calais specifically? You'd be like, "Oh, you're on an energy drink, today." I'm like, Fuck yeah.
What about your sleep? Was your sleep like consistently the same, or like how or compared to like before or now, like that you're drinking less?
No, it's still the same as far as like when I go to sleep and when I have to wake up. Just
or when, depending, like now that you're waking up now compared to when you were drinking 3.
Like in the morning?
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, it definitely feels like, it felt like a hangover sometimes waking up after, just every morning from drinking 3 energy drinks. I don't feel that now. I still feel tired, but it's definitely not the same feeling. Like it definitely was like almost like a hangover feeling, like every morning.
Did you get like that's ridiculous that they put 300 milligrams of caffeine?
Yeah, it is.
And it's like, I mean, fuck, that's like, it should not be legal.
Sorry,
honestly.
Can we swear on this podcast?
No, yeah, fuck, we're all adults, That's a lot, honestly, to put on a. Sorry, my neighbors. Play some background music.
I know we got some tunes. We can get copyrighted. No, but like, I know a lot of people, they'll drink one and they'll just pound it real fast, and it's like you're getting that 300 milligram dose of caffeine in a short period of time, which for me, I didn't drink them like that. I would stretch them out all day. You know what I mean? So like 1 in the morning till about lunch, then maybe 1 after lunch through till like the late afternoon, and then if we have podcast night, definitely like 1 more before a podcast.
I think it's, because the effects of caffeine is a stimulant. It's, not just it's waking you up, keeping your brain alert, and just, so the other thing with, if you're stressed when it comes to sleep, your body's always secreting that cortisol levels, right? Or either secreting them early in the morning or, earlier, but your body's in a constant state of stress. So you're constantly waking up or alert. So energy drinks can do something similar like that. Do you feel like anxious, or anything, like your mood or anything different?
I started to notice, like that I think was the cause of like the anger. Like I would just get frustrated easy, like shorter temper when I was like towards the end of the day when I had more milligrams of THC, or not THC, but caffeine running through my veins, for sure.
Personally, I noticed like on the days that my anxiety is heightened, I would not drink coffee. I would abstain from drinking coffee, and I would, because it didn't just like trigger my anxiety, but I would notice it just made it hyped it up, like because I would be like, whoa, like in meditation I'm having to like kind of be more grounding to be able to handle myself compared to when sometimes I don't, but I love coffee. Coffee is one of my vices. I love the taste of it, but I did, I do now. I'm mindful where I try not to drink it after 12 noon. That's my rule personally, and my sleep hygiene is not to drink it after 12 noon, so I'm able to sleep.
I love that. I love
I'm
like, 'cause
gradually
that's knowing yourself, right?
Yeah.
And honoring yourself and and just like your like you were saying before was really striking, was your own relationship with sleep, right? And your own understanding that sleep is so, when we think of that word regenerative, right? That's so important for our health.
It's like food, right? It's like I really like, I find myself more mindful of everything I consume. Food, the things I read, the things I want to watch, like it's just all of that to me is part of what makes life. And what, you want to, people that I see it a lot now online. Oh, I just want to live a simple life or whatever. And I'm like, well, why don't you? It's you who want to complicate your life or you want to simplify it. So, but sleep to me is one of the important things, and like it's unfortunately gets ignored when it comes to our health, and both physical and mental health. Like I said, it can throw you in a bad mood or put you. But do you get a lot of patients that like struggle with insomnia, and how does it, like, do you see it like reflected in like certain like anxieties or anything, or how does it represent to you with people? Because I see people like like really like crying and just like really depressed because of their insomnia.
Yeah. It's very because people maybe they're very anxious. There's right, a lot of anxiety, which can make it hard to get through the day, right? Or other people might show very irritable, right? And like if somebody cuts them off, there's a big reaction.
What strategies do you teach patients? Like for you, if they're like, oh, that's I just can't sleep, or
well, yeah. So before we like strategies for falling asleep, or
like if someone struggles with sleep, or like what do you like? How do you advise them, or what do you tell them to
I usually first start building awareness and education about the importance of sleep, and helping them see the connection between how you may be feeling. This may be connected to not getting enough sleep. So first it's awareness and education about sleep.
Love it.
And then we problem solve together of what are some ideas that you could come up with your own sleep ritual.
I love that because, like I love how you work with your patients and you don't just tell them, you got to do 1, 2, 3. Because I just listed a whole bunch of stuff, right? Just generic stuff that we do. But everyone is different, right? Everyone has their own things that they do or things, like that. So you got to look into their own, like individualized, therapy.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Because what works for one person doesn't always work for another. I think anything with our health, we all have to be like our own scientist and just collect data of different things that we're trying and see.
I agree. And that's why I love being a scientist with cannabis. It just teaches me so much about my body.
Yeah. Yes.
It's
so grateful how eases me into sleep.
Awesome. Do like some of your patients tell you that they use cannabis for sleep, or
yes,
do they share that with you? Oh, that's awesome. What about, do you see the opposite, end of like cannabis? Do you see people who say, oh, I'm having so much anxiety if I use cannabis the night before, or, like something like that, or if I use cannabis, it gives me intrusive thoughts or something like that. Do you get anything like that?
No. No, once in a while, anxiety once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that can be a reflection if a person is very anxious when they're going to, before they use the cannabis.
Set and setting.
Yes. Set and setting. Sometimes it can just amplify that, right? And paranoia, things like that. So that's why, again, we always like to talk about safe cannabis use, always starting really slow, right? Because the higher a dose, that's what can lead to.
Correct. And I, unfortunately, with, the availability of cannabis, there's really no guidance of it. And people just follow sometimes what someone recommends or whatever, and they end up not having a pleasant experience, especially with edibles, is because they followed someone else's guidance rather than just listening to their own body, or not being knowledgeable about how to use a certain product. And then they're like swear off of cannabis, or swear off of like, nope, I never want to use edibles, or,
Yeah.
But yeah, it is, I'm just grateful that it's available, and we live in a state, that's just allows us to, grow it and all that, which is, I wanted to actually tell you something funny, that that even the same strain, the cultivar, like, can actually, how I was saying, certain terpenes can be expressed in certain strains that can make you more sleepy and all that. So this happened because one time a certain strain had completely different effects, and it was from 3 different cultivars, 3 different people grow it, but it had completely different effect, and it's supposed to be something that's, like a downer, and I was like, what the fuck? Why did this, one made me sleepy, one did not make me sleepy, and the other one also made me sleepy. So I was like, why did one didn't, even though they're the same strain, but they're just grown differently. So I nerded out on that, and I found out that it's actually also how you grow the plant. It will express those certain terpenes, like grown in water versus grown in soil versus grown in or what you feed it and all that. It can express those terpenes a certain way and all that. And I was like, interesting. And it also, the other thing tells you everyone is different on how you react with cannabis, right? And as you could see, some people, it can have an effect for them. Some people, it could just be chill, right? So it's, I just always tell people, just know yourself. But I love it too that cannabis also teaches you about your body, right?
Yeah.
I love it. And I love just growing it.
It's so beautiful.
She's so beautiful. I love her. We'll talk about one day. I'll show you guys how we label it and all that. But also, if you guys have any, this is not the only sleep episode that we're going to be doing about cannabis. So if you have any questions or any suggestions that you want to know about cannabis, you could always include them in the comments or ask them. We could always address them in a different episode. That's always a thing. But I think I spilled out all the things, the sciencey stuff I wanted to talk about with sleep and cannabis. So I don't know. Do you guys have anything to ask me, or I don't know? Go for it, my dear. Do you have any questions? Oh, I like this.
I think I'm ready for a sleep session now.
Oh, for real?
After talking about sleep.
Well, you had a long day too, and you said you didn't sleep well, right?
Yeah, I didn't sleep well last night. So.
Oh, you said you wanted to share something about. Do you mind? Do you mind? Why was your sleep interrupted yesterday?
So my little dog Solomon, 16 years old, has some anxieties at night, and sometimes I like to be by his side when he's going through that. So, but so I think sometimes my sleep cycle gets disrupted.
And like when you're using cannabis, are you able to wake up easy with him and go back to sleep easy, fall back asleep easy, or do you find like when you have to wake up with him you don't use cannabis, or what's your
If I wake up with him around 11 or 12, I can go back to sleep pretty easily.
Mm-hmm.
But if I wake up with him around 3 a.m., no.
Ooh, you just gave me another topic to talk about. You want to know why, by the way, that happens? So, science. The sleep cycle, you know how we talked about, it's like and it goes. So, sleep cycles go in actually 90 minutes, right? An hour and a half. So if you disrupt your sleep cycle, let's say you're disrupting your sleep cycle in your deep sleep phase, you're going to wake up tired. And that's why sometimes if you sleep 8 hours or whatever and disrupt your sleep cycle, you wake up tired. So one of the things...
I think this happens to me a lot.
Yeah. So one of the things to help is like combat that for you during the daytime is take naps, during the daytime. Either take a power nap, which is a 20-minute nap where you don't go into that deep sleep phase, but you at least, and if you are, I recommend for people, if you are to consume caffeine, consume it and go to sleep, because caffeine takes about 20-30 minutes to work. And when you take that power nap, you just rest it, and by that time your caffeine is kicking up, so it wakes you up, right?
Oh, I love that strategy.
Or try it out. You want to avoid caffeine, you can just take your 20-minute nap, and then wake up. Or if you are to take a siesta, which we used to do that as kids, time it to take a 90-minute nap where you don't, sleep past 90 minutes, because will disrupt your sleep cycle. Or if you are to do your bedtime, time it where you do let's say I'm going to sleep 5 sleep cycles, right? That's almost 8 hours, right? Like you're going to sleep 5 sleep cycles. So time it, go backwards, like what time do you have to wake up, and go see how you calculate it, and keep your sleep schedule within 30 minutes. And that's another trick, so you don't wake up.
I love these things.
But I know when you're awakened by someone, it's different. So just take naps during the daytime, whenever you have downtime, take an hour and a half nap if you can, and then maybe give Solomon a little bit of cannabis. No,
that will be another episode. That will be another episode.
No, I know he said he has kidney problems. So people with kidney problems, that's a different topic. You're right. But there is some caution to use with cannabis. Yeah, it's and so how do you when you said you had we were actually talking when you said you had your day was a little bit rough because you didn't, and how long has it been ongoing since you haven't, have your sleep has been disrupted? Has it been consistently disrupted?
It varies. Sometimes it will be once every 2 or 3 nights, or sometimes it could be once every 4 nights. So it varies.
But it's happened, and you notice the next day you're tired.
Yeah. But it's also, I wouldn't want to not be by his side, as he has his goes through this stage of his life. So, but
That's your baby. No, it's understandable. And, sometimes when your sleep is disrupted by outside forces, that's not something you can, help. But cannabis will help you fall back asleep again,
yes, and that's
In that case, I would tell you don't do edibles. Do inhaled methods if you sleep in short bursts,
yeah.
That's when inhaled methods. Just don't use vape cartridges. I don't like them. But
that will also be another episode.
Yes.
We're going to have an episode probably on best consuming practices. Best imbibing practices.
Yep. I'm going to actually do one on dabbing etiquette or something like that. I don't know, but it's, and also like the other thing when it comes to weed, like using cannabis and sleep is know your strains too, right? So
yeah.
Certain strains will hype you up. Like don't expect, for instance, known upper strains like sour diesel to help you sleep, but also know your body too. Like some people are just different.
Yeah.
If you find a strain that helps you sleep and all that, keep note of it and grow it, or if you get it from your dispensary or your source, just know it. And also keep not just one strain. It's good to keep like a couple of strains that that help you, because sometimes your body your endocannabinoid system can get used to the terpenes and stuff, so it's good to keep that in circulation.
Yeah.
But I love and cannabis is benign compared to like the other medicines like the Ativan or the Xanax or like the likes, for sleep, or because those medicines you can't just stop them. Especially if you've been on them for a long time, you can't just stop them. If you stop them abruptly, you can actually go into seizures. So you have to taper them and work with your primary care doctor or whomever is prescribing it to manage your health to come off of those,
Such important information that Abby's sharing right now.
I always encourage my patients to tell their managing health provider that they use cannabis, because it is part of their health and it's part of their regimen. And if they're using it, and I'm noticing some actually healthcare providers do send patients especially elderly patients, send them my way for like the cannabis consults for dosing guidance and stuff like that, especially with that.
I just wanted to take a moment to remind our audience and everyone who's listening that that's one of Abby's specialties.
Cannabis medicine. I love cannabis. It's a wonderful medicine. It works well for a lot of, different, like ailments and stuff. But also, it's not just a medicine or cure for everything, too. That's my, like, we don't want to go the other end, too. But it works with a lot, and it carries a lot of less side effects than a lot of pharmaceutical stuff. And even stuff like benign stuff like melatonin. Melatonin works great, but after a while, your body stops, after 3-4 days, some people just melatonin, it just stops working in your body, So, but it's cannabis, like even if you are used to taking it, if you stop taking it, you'll just lose sleep 2-3 days, But the cool thing about it is you don't have to use THC. You could use other cannabinoids that can help you sleep too. So, but anyways, like you could use CBD formulations that can help you sleep as well. So it's so versatile, and it carries way less side effects, honestly, than what's alternative available. But I always encourage people, when you're using cannabis for sleep, don't just rely on that. Just all those methods we talked about, the sleep hygiene, and don't develop a hate relationship with your bed. Like when you're like laying in your bed and you're like, oh, change your perspective about it with that. And again, I'm so grateful that we have this plant and all that. Those are my last remarks. Do you have anything else to add about sleep and cannabis?
No, just such a pleasure to be here with you talking about sleep and our favorite plant. So thank you.
Yeah, and this is the part that I dislike. We just ask if you do like listening to us jabbing about all these different topics, or if you have another topic, please like us, subscribe, and share these episodes so we can continue making more episodes like this for you. And I don't like to market myself, but it's unfortunately we gotta do this.
We do. So we do appreciate it if you can.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, and we truly appreciate you. And go get some sleep.